Hey guys, so I'm going to teach you how to make one of my personal favorite charms, little pigs. So the first thing you're going to need is your clay. If you notice, I have two different colors here. I made kind of a peach skin tone type clay, and then I also have a pink one. And I made the peach tone just by mixing some white with some red and yellow, and then the pink is just some white mixed with a little bit of red. And the reason I like to have colored clay is because when I paint them, it just, helps the paint sit better. You don't have to do as many coats, because the clay itself is close to the actual color you're going to be painting it, so it just makes it a little bit easier when you start painting. So the first thing that we're going to do is just make a ball. Just kind of roll it out with your hand, just about the size of a small marble. You can make it as big or small as you want. It's pretty much up to you, but I just like to keep it I feel like this is a pretty good size to work with. And then you're just gonna kind of get into a squat teardrop egg shape a little bit. Just kind of pinch it and shape it so it's kind of almost like a little pear shape slightly. Then the next thing we're gonna do is make our jump loop. So let's get our pliers and kind of create the loop like that, and then cut it, and then just kind of bend the end there so that when you put it in the charm, it's almost like gripping inside of the charm, and it won't fall out or just pop out as easily when you're using it. Just kind of use your pliers to get it in there. And then while you're doing that, your shape might get a little bit squished, but it's fine. You can just reshape it with your fingers. Then once you have your shape down, I like to get some TLS, just kind of fill in the hole that the loop made when it went in. Just kind of smooth it out. I don't know if you can hear that, but my cat is crying. I apologize. So once you got that, we can start on the ears. So whenever I'm adding, ears or nose or tails or wings to anything that I'm making, I like to just kind of score the area where it's going to go, and that just kind of helps it stay on and kind of grip your base a little bit better. So once you score, you can add a little bit of TLS just to act as a kind of glue. See that? So once you have that, you can take the pink clay, break off a little bit, and just kind of make kind of a rounded, flat triangle, like that. So just make kind of a shape like that. And you'll also want to kind of score this as well, just like that. I have to reshape it a little bit after that, but that's okay. And then you're just gonna pop that right on there, like that. Just kind of press it down. Shape it a little bit if you need to. If there's any bumps or weird stuff going on, you can just use your needle to kind of smooth it back out. I scored a little bit too much there, but that's okay. Okay, then we can do the other side. Score that area right there. Gonna make our other ear like that, and then score it like the other one. Get a little TLS on there. Put that on the side. Smooth it, pat it down to the head. So that's what you're gonna end up with right now. And the last thing I'm gonna make is the little snout. So you're gonna get some more pink clay. And again, you can make this as big or as small as you like. I like to go, you know, not too big, but also I don't want to go too tiny. So maybe just like slightly smaller than that. So get like a little ball about that size and just make it sort of into a, you know, you can roll it a little bit, make it more of an oval shape. And we can figure out where you want it. I think like right in the middle is good. So score that just a little bit. Right there. Tiniest bit of TLS. Kind of glue it on. And then you can just press your little snout right there. Just kind of flatten it a little bit. You can see. If you need to use your needle to kind of maybe like scoot it over a little bit or shape it, that's fine. And then I just like to take my needle and add these little nose holes right there. It's like a real snout. There you go. So you can bake this 275 for, I bake up mine for about 30 minutes. They say 30 minutes per 1/4 inch, but I just leave them in for 30 minutes just to make sure they're completely done and they don't brown or anything. And we're going to paint them anyway, so if, you know, they'll be fine. Okay, so now that we have our little pig baked, I'm going to start putting on the base coat. I just made kind of a peach flesh colored paint there. It's basically just white mixed in with some red and yellow. You can adjust it however you want, if you want it more pinkish or lighter or darker or whatever. This was just kind of color that I like to use. So I'm just going to use my kind of flat, wide brush here. Just kind of brush that on nice and smooth. It's okay if it kind of gets on the other parts, because we're just going to paint over them anyways. But just get like a nice, even coat. Flatten out any areas that the paint kind of, I don't know, like it's, I don't know how to describe it, but if you get those like kind of strips and lines of paint, just kind of smooth them out. And I usually like to do about like 4 or 5 coats for my base, pretty much just until you can't really see the clay underneath anymore. And that's why I like to use a clay that's kind of the same color as what I'm trying to paint on, because it just sits on it. Like, I mean, imagine if you made this out of like a black clay. It would take forever. You'd have to do like 20 coats. So, you know, it's helpful to work with a clay that's close to the color you want it to be. So yeah, just keep doing that until you've got about 5 coats. Okay, so once you have your base coat on, we can start painting on the ears and the nose. So I'm just using kind of a little darker pinkish peach color, sort of smallish, medium-sized brush for these details. Carefully paint on the ear. And if you get a little bit on the head, it's fine. You can just, go over it with some of your flesh color afterwards. Cover it up. And then kind of getting in those little areas underneath right there. And you might have to do maybe another coat or 2 just to make sure it's completely solid. So, and then we'll do the other side. Okay, now we've got the ears done. Can do the nose. Just take a little bit, just brush it on right like that. And don't worry about the holes getting filled up, because you can poke them back in with the needle afterwards. Okay. So once you have your ears and your nose painted on, something that I like to do, especially with like red and green paint, what I've noticed is that, like, if I were to glaze this whole thing right now, I've noticed that the red or the pink here will kind of like bleed out a little bit into the rest of the charm. And so to avoid that, I like to glaze those parts separately first, just to kind of seal them in so that when you glaze the whole thing, you know, they won't bleed out on you. So just take a brush and just get like, just not even a lot, just a little bit of glaze, and just kind of just put it on there. And if you do see it kind of, you know, bleeding out onto the edge here, you can, you know, you can paint over it and it won't matter. So just do like a little, just like a little pre-glaze here. And just a little bit on the nose there. So we're just kind of containing these areas, keeping them from going crazy on the rest of your charm. So yeah, just let that dry. Once the ears and the nose are dry, another thing that I like to do is just put kind of a very thin preliminary coat of glaze on the rest of the charm. And the reason I like to do this is, one, it just kind of protects it from any like dust or hair that might fall on it, you know, while it's drying or while it's hanging. You could just like wipe it right off. And a lot of times when I do the eyes, maybe it might take me like, you know, a couple times to get them right. You know, you gotta kind of wipe them off. So if there's if it's kind of got this slick glazed surface, it just makes it a lot easier to do that. It won't, you know, like I use brown, you know, dots for the eyes, and if I try to wipe it off, if I did it right now and try to wipe it off, it would just like kind of get into this paint, and, you know, and I'd have to paint over it. But if it's glazed, it literally just like wipes right off. You can have a clean start. So that's why I like to do this step here. So again, it's just a very, very thin coat all around, and you can just let that dry, and then we can get into the face after that. So once that coat of glaze dries, we're ready to do the eyes. This is kind of the tricky part, and it might take a couple times to get it right. I know I still need to do it a couple times every once in a while. So I'm using just a brown paint here, and to dot the eyes, I've been using an empty mechanical pencil for a long time. I know some people like to use those nail art dotter things, and I actually have one coming in the mail. I kind of want to try it out because I'm sure it's, you know, it's better than this. But I mean, I've been using this for years, and it works pretty well, especially for, you know, really small eyes like this. So basically what I do is I just dip it into the paint, so it's got kind of, you can see it's kind of holding a little droplet there, and just very carefully dot that on, just like that. And then let's do the other side. It's kind of tricky to get them lined up. You might have to, again, you might have to do it a couple times. Is that right? Like you can see, it's a little too big and it's a little too close to the nose, but that's okay. I'm just gonna wipe it right off, and you can see how easily that comes off with the glaze. It's not like, you know, getting into the peach or anything. Clean start. So let's try that again. I'm still not happy with that, so let me try again. 3 times. Oh, and I just, another good, okay, this is a good lesson. I usually like to let one of the eyes dry completely before trying to do the other one for this reason, because you can mess it up. So I'm gonna have to start completely over. There we go. All right, I'm letting this one dry so I don't mess it up. So once you get your other eye on, we can start doing the cheeks. So I'm just using just kind of a basic pink, darker than the peach color we're using for the base, so it'll show up, but not quite as dark as the color that we're using for the ears and the snout. So I'm just gonna almost kind of dry brush on. You could do this, you know, very simply just by, you know, kind of the way we did the eyes, just making little dots. That's a simpler way to do it, but I kind of like to do almost like a little brushed like kind of pastel look. So I just kind of very gently dot that on. So you can kind of see that. And the other side. I might actually want to add a little bit of the darker peach to this too. I'm just gonna like kind of brush in a little bit of the peach. Okay, so just let that dry, and then we're gonna kind of go in with the with our base color and get it a little more of kind of like a blush type of look. So now we're gonna go in with our base peach color, not too much, and just kind of stipple around the edges there. Just kind of creating this kind of airbrushed look around the blush. Just be careful not to get it on the eyes too. There we go. You can kind of, if there's too much in your brush, you can just kind of brush it back on the charm like that. Because you don't want a whole lot. You want it to be very kind of like a dry brush type thing. Like a little bit more. See, he kind of looks like he's got a little bit of a powdery blush there. And then the last thing we can do before glazing, we can just kind of, where is it? Re-push in his little holes there, just so they show up some more. And then we are ready to glaze. So once your cheeks are completely dry and everything's good to go, we can start glazing. So the glaze I use, it's called, it's Varathane. It's actually a floor finish. And it comes in these big, huge paint can type things. I don't think they sell them in anything smaller, but I mean, if you're making a lot of these, it's, you know, it's a lot more affordable than getting, you know, small little glazes. And I know that Sculpting glaze, I used to use that. They changed their formula so that it actually cracks acrylic paint when you put it on, and I tested it and it definitely did that. So I had to switch over, and I feel like this glaze it's really good. I mean, it is a floor finish, and it's it doesn't color or yellow or anything, and it's really strong and clear, so I like it a lot. So basically, I've got my little jar of glaze here, and I'm just gonna dip him in like that. And then I have this just kind of ratty old brush, and it's pretty good for glazing. I don't use it for anything else, just glazing, so that it doesn't get dirty. It's kind of a clean brush, and I just, wow, I can't even see what I'm doing. And then I just kind of get the excess off like this, just kind of brush it so there's no like drips or, get out of there, or anything like that. And it's up to you how many coats of glaze you want to do. I like to do a lot. I like it really, like a thick coat. I'd say like, as long as you have, 3, you should be fine. But, I mean, you can do as many as you want. I mean, I wouldn't do like, 10 coats or anything, but I think like, 5 would be pretty decent. That's what I usually do. So yeah, just get a bunch of coats of glaze on there. So once you've done a few coats of glaze, this is what your pig should look like. Super cute. I mean, once they're dry, they're pretty much dry, but just to be safe, I would let them, hang for a few hours. Overnight would be good too. But yeah, this is a little pig charm. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it.